Hello, Accelerators Organization. Thanks for having me. Sean Thomas, thanks for having me to answer some questions here. My name's Joel Gandara. I've been an entrepreneur since the 4th grade and been in the apparel industry, e-commerce, warehouse fulfillment. Now I coach people. And so happy to be here. I want to share a thought before we get started, though. This is something that I think about all the time, and I rarely share it, but it's important to ask the right questions and anticipate problems before they happen. And you can't do that the first time something happens, right? That's never happened. I didn't know how to react. I didn't know what to do. That's totally logical. However, if you've had a situation happen before, you should be very quick to fix it the second time. But I notice that people don't do this. I notice that people go in circles and they waste a lot of time. I'll give you an example. You might go to a restaurant and you say, I don't know, you request something minor. Like, no, you know what, is it possible to get a table? Can we squeeze in 4 people in that table? And the person is always just lost, like they've never heard such a request. And you realize you're in a restaurant, you've probably been asked 1,000 different things. And I'm talking simple questions. But today, I got an email, or last night I got an email, and I responded and went back and forth, and into this morning we're still going back and forth. I rented a private room at a restaurant and for an event that I have for my men's group, a retreat. And I get an email from the coordinator, the lady who set it up in banquet sales, and she writes back, and what did she ask me? It was, hey, everything's taken care of. You got the reservation, you got the room, you paid the deposit, everything's good, but you haven't told us what food do you want, because you have to pick from a menu. But she did not put the menu on the email. She's got to know that I don't have that menu memorized, right? I mean, this is what she does for a living. And so I have to respond, play this game that people play by not giving full information up front, and say, okay, thank you. Can you please give me the menu? And then she does, and it's a menu that requires access. So when I get the email back from her, now we're going back and forth now, I click it, and I don't have access. So I have to request access, and then I write her back. I go, I didn't have access. Can you please give me access to this? She's got to know that it's like a password-protected thing. This is not her first day. This is what she does for a living. So this morning, I get access, and I open it, and there's 1,000 dinner options. And I don't know which one I have. I set this up a month ago, and all I was worried about is getting the room and putting the deposit down, $1,500 deposit, and having it ready. And now I had to go back to her and say, hey, can you remind me what's the package that you sold me so that I can make the right options? So think about this in your business. I'm not good at a lot of things, but one thing I am pretty good at is being efficient. Imagine having a template that you copy and paste and put for that person. Hey, you're all set. We need you to pick the dinner packages. I've attached it. Here's your password to get in it. And you chose the such and such package. You know they're going to ask you all these questions. Don't waste time. And this is what happens, I think, in an employee mindset where she feels like she's working. She's busy. She's there for 8 hours a day. But that wasn't a very productive 8 hours. A lot of it was wasted going back and forth. I had that issue with an employee once that I thought was impossible to get rid of. This was the most important employee I ever had. And when we had to get rid of her for a reason, I studied what she was doing, and it was about 2 hours of work a day, but I was paying her 8-9 hours a day. All right, had to get that off my chest because it just happened on an email, and I had to share that. If you're an owner of a business, do not have that employee mindset of, hey, I'm here for 8 hours, I'm working hard. You have to be productive during those 8 hours, and hopefully you can work a lot less. Or in 8 hours, you accomplish what others accomplish in 20. All right, let's get to the questions. Thank you for listening to my rant. For those of you that are on here live, let's see, we've got Gerald, Benjamin, Kimberly, Benjamin, and Adam Corcoran. All right, guys. Well, first question is from Robin Turpin, and it is, are there any routines or habits you have learned to use for yourself that help you control the ups and downs of emotions as an entrepreneur? Here's the background. This happens every once in a while. I am around my mother who struggles with positivity. I feel like I am always working to keep a positive air. And add that to the normal pressures and ups and downs of business. It is okay, but exhausting. Do you have any tips you use? Well, Robin, sorry you're going through this. I know that it's your mother. what are you going to do, right? I don't know if you live with her. If you do, that's really tough because you're surrounded by it. I personally make boundaries. I tell everybody who's allowed to be in my life that this is how I roll, and the rest of it I just ignore. So if it's someone like your mother, if she were to live with you, I get it. That is a different story because she's always around. So you have to figure out how to make that boundary and ignore the rest. Life's tough enough. We don't have to have this negative mindset. You're not going to teach an old dog new tricks. You're not going to teach your mom to see things differently. Probably you can try, but it's probably not going to happen. I personally choose the people that are in my life. There's no one in my life that I don't want here. It is 100% the way I want it. I don't care if they're a relative or not. They have to meet the test of, is this person bringing me something beneficial to my life? If they don't, then they're not around with me. They're not invited to as many things. We see each other at a family gathering or at an event or whatever. I'm not going to talk too much to that person. I'll be nice and cordial and say hello and goodbye and all, how you doing? But that's it. Then I gravitate to the people that I want to be around because they bring me that positivity and good things and challenges and all of that. So yeah, you're right. Ups and downs of business, that's already enough. As far as the question itself, what do I do to control the ups and downs? So number one, like I said, control the people who are around me. That's a huge effect. And then I realized that making emotional decisions usually is not good. Emotional decisions lead to bad partnerships, lead to bad business decisions, in my opinion. They lead to bad marriages because people make emotional decisions solely. Emotions are okay, and it could be part of it, but it's not just about the way you feel. You have to stop, detach from the situation and think it through, have others talk through it with you and think it through to see if you're missing anything. I know it may sound a little tactical or a little weird, but I mean, for me, the decision of marriage, who am I going to marry, the right partner, it was not solely emotional. Sure, there are feelings involved, but even something as serious as that, and people fall in love for whatever reasons, see how that turns out years later. To me, it's important to think it through and see what am I feeling, why am I feeling this, is this logical, what would happen if, and I ask myself all those red flag questions. Anyway, so that avoids getting the wrong people in your life. But look, I like being middle of the road. I don't go too crazy celebrating when things are too great, and I don't hit the bottom. I try not to when things are going rough. I know there's got to be an even ground, and you're going to get back. If things are great, be ready. They're going to come back to normal, and they're even going to go down sometimes. And if they're real down, they're going to get back to normal one day, and they're going to be good one day. So I try to keep that middle of the road attitude. I learned that in a baseball book when I was 13 years old. It was Ted Williams, the Hall of Famer, The Art of Hitting. And it said, when you're hitting really well, don't get too excited. And when you're in a slump doing really bad, don't get down on yourself. Stay middle of the road all the time so you could be every day getting things done. I'm all about discipline and consistency and doing the same thing every day that I need to do. So when you're on an emotional roller coaster, that will keep you from doing that. I don't do things because I feel like doing them. I do them because it's the right thing to do. And I know what my end goal is. So if you keep these things in mind, hopefully that helps, Robin. Just some random thoughts there. Next question is from Marcus Palmieri. Mentally, what helped you transition from solopreneur to business owner in the beginning? I know to build a company, I need to hire people. I do 6 figures with clients now, and it's a mental thing to hire other technicians in my businesses and pay them for money I earn now so I can do more selling. How do I get over this mental challenge? Well, Marcus, I don't know if you've come to the right guy as far as who's the best mentors are in here, but I'll tell you, these are the type of topics I'm really into. Anything about mental. Because we have these blocks, and I'll tell you, I've said it many times before, the difference for me from making $30,000 a year, $50,000 a year, to making over $1 million in profit a year was all 100% in my head. Nothing else changed. I still have the same body, the same 2 hands, the same earth, the same situations all around me. It was just the way that I started thinking. So you could keep those pennies for yourself, but that's really, what do they call it? It's a British saying, penny wise, pound foolish, right? If you think, well, I'm going to just keep all this for myself, well, then you're always going to be a technician. You're never going to be a business leader. You're never going to guide people. You're never going to grow. You're just going to be a person that's a solopreneur, which basically, just so you know, is really having a job. You're your own boss. But you're stuck, and your customers are just going to be your boss. So is that what you want? Think about the vision. What do you really want? Do you want to build a business? Do you want to have all kinds of employees? Do you want to grow this? You say you're doing 6 figures. I don't know the profitability of that, but do you want to do 7 figures? Do you want to do 8 figures? Is that possible in your industry? You're not going to do all of that by yourself, because you're one person and you're limited, and you can only do so much. So how do you grow this business? You mentioned sales. Do I hire people so I can go do more selling? Is that how you grow your business? Probably. And you're probably not going to be too able to go and sell if you're busy doing all the technical work. And do you really want to forever? Maybe for now, while you're getting your feet wet and you're going through this process of becoming a solopreneur, it takes time. It usually takes people a little while to realize, well, wait, I can't do this forever. This is not scalable. This is actually not enjoyable. I could have other people doing this, and I can supervise their work, and I can make phone calls, and I can sell more. Hopefully that's more fun for you. If it's not, excuse me, if that's not more fun for you, then this is what you're set out to be, just a solopreneur or an employee. So you have to make that decision. Do you want to be a business owner, or do you want to be a technician? It's hard to be both forever. You can be both in the beginning. It's okay. Give yourself some mercy there. You are maybe just starting out, or you've been doing this a little while. It's a process, and people go through it. I went through it myself. And it wasn't until I realized that, I can't grow. I can't even have a day off until I have employees. So I hired my first employee many years ago, and it did change the game. I started really growing the business when I hired that first person, because they got to do the technical things that I didn't want to do. I got to call customers. I got to build relationships. But when I was doing that technical work, I couldn't do that. I just had my head down, and I had this mini business. But when I freed myself up from the day-to-day, first of all, aside from extra time, you're going to have amazing creativity abilities. And I'm not a creative person. I can't even draw a stick figure. I'm a logical person. But the moment I got myself out of I got to do this, I got to do that, ideas started popping into my head. And guess what? I didn't even have to do them all. I could tell that employee, hey, when you're done with that, do me a favor, try this. And they would try out my ideas. So I could keep thinking of new ideas, so I can keep calling new customers. It was an absolute game changer. I highly recommend that, Marcus. All right. Kimberly just mentioned in the comments, I absolutely love the way you said that. Thank you, Kimberly. I don't know what it was, but because I say a lot of things. Next question is from Gerald Benjamin. How do I ensure quality control in my business? I own a roofing company. In roofing, I will have laborers I have to manage, and I want to be able to manage multiple projects at once. I don't know how to set up processes that ensure that my laborers are doing the right job, so I don't have to oversee every step. Any suggestions? Gerald, I'm a big believer in making friends with competition and being in that industry and getting your hands in there and meeting people, because these are conversations. If you get in an industry group of roofers, you can have these conversations. I have friends, I have a friend who owns a big pest control company, very big. I see his trucks everywhere. He does my pest control at my house, and I think he was the president of they have a group for the whole state, and they have meetings in the state capitol and all this. And imagine the power of being with all your competitors in a room and hearing every month a meeting where they say all the issues and they can ask questions, and that's how you improve an industry. And that's how if let's say you're newer or you're smaller, you're going to ratchet up real quick by being involved in the industry. I highly recommend that. I used to go to trade shows, and I was the first one. It would be my first show, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd be in Vegas, New York, Paris, and I'd be at these shows, and I saw my competitors, and I saw their booths and the way they got a lot of appointments and sales, and I was realizing I'm doing something wrong. So I started making friends with all of them. I go, hey, I noticed that you, you have a lot of appointments. You get a lot of people here. How do you set your appointments? And they started telling me. By the next show, I had a lot of appointments. And then I'd say, hey, these displays you have are beautiful. How do you make these? And I have a vendor. I'll give you his number. And then my displays got better. So you have to have people around you that raise you up. Just like you're an accelerators organization, that's good. It raises you up. You should learn more about your own industry. I can't tell you about your industry. I know nothing about roofing. But people in your industry can help you. Now, I will tell you this, just from a leadership perspective, if you're leading your employees to be simple employees, you're always going to have to worry about quality and them thinking like you and acting like you. Now, maybe they'll never be as good as you, right? Because you're the owner, you have the most interest in everything going well. But if you develop your team, Gerald, so that they're in it with you, right? You've showed them why it needs to be this way. This is assuming you have the right people, right? If you have idiots or people who just don't care about anything, that's not the right employee. But you see that, they really are good and they want to do well, and you lead them, and it's not just, hey, do this. It's asking them the right questions to build leaders, not build employees, because how scalable is it if you're the boss and everybody's got to do what you say? Not very scalable. But if you lead them, and what I mean by that is, for example, you teach them the process. You got it down. You tell one of the guys, hey, this is on you, okay? I want you to lead this project. I want you to make sure that when you remove the old roof, the first layer is put down properly. And you send me a video and send that to me. First of all, you don't have to go out there and see it. And then that guy is doing a good job. You start congratulating, hey, that's the way, man. You're really doing it well. Perfect. Go. Yeah. What do you think? Do we go to the next step now? You know that you do. But you ask him and you keep throwing it on him. And that's how you build leaders, because now he's in it. He's like, oh yeah, the boss is really entrusting me. And people step up when you do that. There's been a lot of psychological experiments about giving people authority. And when you do that, they feel like they own the world and they take off with that. Now, if you do this right, you'll little by little be able to take your foot off the gas. You personally can start stepping away from the business a little bit. And that is the reason we're in business, to make a lot of money and to grow and not work all day, every day, and not be stressed out that much. But yeah, it's a building leadership exercise for you. You got to build leaders. Otherwise, you just got employees and you have to keep telling them what to do. Sorry about the coughing. I'm getting over a really bad cold, but I'm fine now. All right, next question is from Kimberly Benjamin. How do I justify hiring a personal and admin assistant? I have a life insurance business and I help my husband's business, Top Gun Roofing. I know I can do more in both our business if I take some of the load off of my business admin work, as well as personal family stuff. We have 7 kids. I also have a fear that I'm not being a good mother. I'm afraid I may not be able to pay, and how much does it take away from my family income? So yeah, that's a dilemma, Kimberly. I know that feeling. When things are just, you're doing all that groundwork to get this to take off, and one day it probably will take off if you stay with it, you do the right things. It's not just work hard, it's work smart. Things will start lightening up. So it's a mix of, you want to make the most money possible. You want to be a great mother. You have 7 kids, so those are 2 things that are polar opposites usually. You want to make a lot of money, that means you got to work a lot. But if you work a lot, you can't pay attention to the kids as much. And I get it. And you want to build this future for them. But to be honest, what they want is you around. They don't really care about the money so much. It's us as adults that care about money. Kids usually don't care about that as much. They want our attention. And then you want to help your husband, and you got your responsibilities. I would start with an exercise of laying this all out. It could be like in your business, right, as what you do. And let me see. So you're a life insurance. Yeah, you have a life insurance business, and your husband has Top Gun Roofing. I got it. So each of you maybe do an exercise of getting in a Google sheet, and you put all your responsibilities. And then you start looking, number one, where do I have to keep all of these because I'm the best at these, and this is where I can really grow. And those usually have to do with sales and strategy and planning and some of those things. And then where are they just low-level clerical things that you could dish out to somebody else if you can afford those. If not, you're the assistant. If you don't have an assistant, right now you are that assistant, and then you have to deal with it for now. But I think starting with the exercise of what are all your functions, what can you dish out to other people, which ones do you know you want to do forever. So starting there's a lot to this, right? So it would be better to have a conversation rather than just me trying to spit this all out. But I'll tell you, you're not alone. This is a dilemma. I had it. My wife and I had this too when we had little kids and we're trying to grow a business, and we both had a lot on our plate. But there are things that you could probably, and I answered these in the previous question from your husband, from Gerald, where if you build the right people and the right team and leaders, a lot of these little things go away. So another thing is to look at, so I said, break down your functions and what you can have other people do and what you can do. The other one is, here's another exercise. You look at your businesses, each of you, and you say, what is the number one thing that either costs us a lot of money, gives us a lot of headaches, and wastes a lot of time? You're looking for the things you absolutely can't stand in the business, and you isolate these and you write them all out. And let's say there's 8 of them. Now do a second go through, and what's number 1? And then what's number 2? What's number 3? What's number 4? I've done this in my business and revamped it. And then I've done it with a lot of clients too that I coach. But what we do with this is, let's say you find the number one thing that's causing you headaches, costing you money and costing you time, bottlenecking your business, all the problems. Now work on a solution for that. For the next 30 days, 90 days, you're working on a solution to improve this part of the business. Whether it's you're overpaying for something, labor that keeps messing up on something, find the solution for that. And you'll see it really changes the game, because then here's what happened to me. We did this and we laid out like 14 problems in our business. And then we attacked number 1, and it took 30 days. We finished it and it made our business so much better. And then we said, all right, it's the next month. Let's go to number 2. And we went to number 2, knocked that one out. Let's say it took 20 days to knock that one out. When we got to number 3, we go, wait, this isn't a problem anymore. Why isn't this a problem? We said, oh, when we solved 1 and 2, number 3 went away. That's pretty big. Now we're like, whoa, this is becoming this business that's fun to run now and making way more money and costing us less, having less employees. It really changes everything when you do this exercise of going through and fixing problems. Otherwise, you're just dealing with problems and going in circle. And it goes back to that example that I said at the very beginning, where employees often, and hopefully not owners, but they're going in circles and they're causing their own problems because they're not fixing the problem up front. They're not realizing, oh, this is always a problem. Let me address it and let me fix it for once, not just be in the day-to-day in the weeds. All right. Next question is Alyssa Wilkins. By the way, I want to congratulate you guys up to now. These have been great questions. All right. Alyssa asks, how do I partner with my spouse to support them in the company? My husband and I own a landscaping business. I left my full-time job in March to be full-time in the business. Prior to that, he was performing 100% of the tasks. It is very hard for him to give up control and trust that the employees and myself can perform these tasks without him overseeing everything. How can I get him to open up and let me do more? Alyssa, I would hope that you get your husband to become a member of Accelerator's organization, because if he's involved in hearing these things and hearing how people are scaling their business, listening to Sean, listening to everybody's Flex Fridays and how things are going well for them, I think he'll start opening his mind. Maybe your husband has not been a business owner for a long time, or maybe, and by the way, there's nothing wrong. He thinks small right now. We all start thinking small usually, and we have to go through a process. It's a mental process. He's got to maybe, I always say people have to hit rock bottom before they start fixing things. He's just in stable mode. He's working all day. He gets another client, he's just going to work another half hour today. And he gets another client, he's going to work another hour today. And then he's got to hit rock bottom. He's got to get burned out and realize this is not the way to go. I can't do this forever. So, and then when he does hit rock bottom in that sense, like burned out, man, I'm exhausted, I'm not taking care of myself, I get a bad blood work, I get, start getting sick, whatever it is, he might realize, wait a minute, something's got to change. Hopefully, you could be a great partner, wife and partner, and help him realize this earlier. I don't want to throw all that pressure on you. He's got to realize it for himself. But if you start taking over a little tiny task and saying, hey, honey, I'll take care of this, okay? And just do a bang-up job and do it really well and think ahead, and don't have him have to tell you the steps if you already know it. Right? I see that happen a lot. Like, okay, tell me what to do. Okay, I got this challenge. Now what do I do? That's just an employee mindset. So if you could help him with a leadership mindset of asking him, look, okay, you want this done? What's the reason? This is the reason that we tell our employees what the reason is. It's called commander's intent. If you're the commander in the military and you want to take over this base, then you don't just give instructions that are just vague, like, hey, I want you to attack here and go through there, or exact. Yeah, I wanted this, and I want you to do it. And what if you get there and you can't attack through that because it's blocked off? Then you have to go back to the commander and say, hey, what do you want me to do now? Let's not do things that way. You say, I want you to take over the base, the enemy's base. I want you to take it over. Okay, well, if I can't go through this way, then I'm smart enough, I'll go in the other way. So if you're going to help your husband break through that small-minded business approach, which is normal, we all go through it, help him by you asking the right questions. Say, okay, what's the intent here? What are we trying to accomplish? Okay, we're trying to accomplish that. All right, I'm going to try this way. If that doesn't work, I'll figure out another way. Right? So if you do that a few times and then you have good communication with him, you say, hey, look, remember that we had this challenge? Did you like the way so you debrief after you go through a challenge. And then he starts realizing, oh, I can trust her. And then you help him lead others that way. And you help other employees succeed that way. And usually that's done not by telling people what to do, but asking them, hey, what do you think we should do? We got to get this thing done. We got these two properties that we got to get to today. We're limited on manpower, and here's what we got to do. What do you think we should do? And let the employee think through that, because that's how you build leaders. And then that way you don't have to do all the work and worry about everything. All right, I want to read Kimberly's comment here. She says, I love how you put everything in order, figuring out what to do and how to do it. Just taking it one step at a time, one problem at a time. Yeah, heck yeah, Kimberly. I hear people not take action because they have this massive problem. Nothing is a massive problem. Everything is a problem. Okay, what's the problem? How do we get to it? What's the first step? I always ask this question. What's our next step? This? Okay, perfect. I don't even need to know what the next step is after that. I just say, all right, let me do it. All right, now what's the next step? This one? And when you approach it that way, nothing's that complicated. I don't do it so much anymore, running. But I used to run and like ultra marathon distances, 25, 30 miles plus. And I'll tell you what, the hardest thing every time was that first step in the morning when I was going to go on a long run. The rest of it takes care of itself. You just start falling forward, and that's all that running is. You're just falling forward and you just keep going. That's easy to do. It's the starting. It's like when you stop working out. It's that starting. It's that first step. But the first step's the tough one, but nobody takes it. So make it very simple and very small, and then you go forward and take a bunch of steps. Alrighty. Here's our final question. This is my friend Ricardo Delgado. As a business owner, in general, what relationships are key to have in my network as I build? My background is in service. I own a barbershop and am also a barber. I need to continue building relationships. I am in AO, obviously, and I am in Toastmasters. I also attend some industry events. I worry I might not have some critical contacts in my network that I am not thinking about. Any ideas? Ricardo, it's a great question because you're asking, what am I missing? Like, what am I not seeing? That's great because normally we see, we're looking here, our life is in this tunnel and we think this is everything. So you're in that tunnel. We all are. We all have our tunnels, whether they're big or small. And you're saying, hey, what's on the outside that I can't see because I'm locked in here, locked and loaded. So you're asking, that's a good question. It's always like, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? And everybody's going to give you different perspectives. So good job asking that type of question. So it depends. You want to build a network depending on where you want to go. I happen to know Ricardo's situation. Ricardo has a great barbershop. It's doing really well. It's his bread and butter. It's his income. He also wants to coach other barbers. He wants to grow in that world. And then he wants to start a barber school. I hope you don't mind, Ricardo, that I'm sharing all of this, but you've shared that with me, and I think it has to do with your question. So that's where you want to get to. You want to continue to grow your barbershop. Okay, then your network should be amazing barbers. Whether you find them on Instagram or they're 20 miles away from you and hopefully not too much of a competitor, and you can build some relationship there like, hey, man, I love what you're doing. How'd you get to this? Can I take you to coffee? Can I take you to lunch? And learn from them that way. And by learning from them, you're building a network. You show someone that you appreciate them and like, man, I love what you're doing. You're a superstar. They like that. And now you build a friendship with them, and that could last for decades. And you provide value wherever you can to them, and they'll definitely help you out. Just by being around them, you get a lot of benefits. So that's a barber, so that you could keep making your barbershop better and keep getting even better ideas, so you can sharpen the knife. And as far as being a coach, befriend a lot of coaches. Have a call with Sean and ask him, hey, how'd you build this coaching thing? Here's what I'm trying to do. Find other coaches and ask them, hey, can we have a quick call? You're a coach. I've been trying to build my coaching practice. Just want to get some thoughts from you. I do that. I do that all the time. I'm not very powerful on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not a social media guy. I'm not exciting. I'm a kind of low-level guy. So I talk to guys who are those things, and I ask them some things, and maybe we'll collaborate on a post, and so I can get my message out there about my men's program. So I still do that. I had a call last week with a great coach, and then we did a post on Instagram and collaborated, and it brought me a bunch of followers from it. So look for the people who are doing the things that you want. A barber school. Reach out to a barber school. So maybe it's one far away that it definitely won't see you as a competitor. And you contact them and you say, hey, I'd like to speak to the owner or the general manager if possible. Here's who I am. I just have a few questions. I saw you guys online. You have a great website. Looks like you have a really good program. I read your reviews and you guys are amazing. I just want to see if I can talk to the manager or the owner there for 10 minutes. I have nothing to sell him. Just want to chat and see how he's built something so amazing. When you start with compliments, it opens a lot of doors and the people go, oh, this guy's pretty good. He thinks I'm doing a good job. Then I like this guy. So look for those opportunities. You got to be genuine. You're not just complimenting to compliment. You're getting in front of that person and getting their attention. All right, Ricardo, we will talk soon, offline, I'm sure. And that's it. I think I answered all the questions, whether I answered them well or not. I hope I got you guys thinking about seeing things differently and going after it. All right, everybody, have a fantastic day.